Welcome back to another episode of Books and Beers. So over the month of November, we've been focusing on books that had to do with money. And I actually have all 4 books myself, so I'm going to do a brief recap before we get started today. The first week, we had a Barney review, I Will Teach You How to Be Rich, which has to do with personal finance, how to manage your own money, and stuff like that. The second week, we took it a little more macro, and I reviewed Naked Economics. If you want to know why I don't have the physical copy right now, go and check out our Instagram, @Books and Beers Club. The third week, we had a Barney review, one of the most important books when it comes to finance. It is The Intelligent Investor, which is really known for being Warren Buffett's favorite book. And today we have A Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burton Malkiel. Since this is one of my favorite books, I'm actually going to do things a little different today. I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite beers, Polar. It's a Venezuelan beer, because I'm Venezuelan. So I'm actually going to start drinking the beer early and just drink it throughout the review. Cheers. Let's get to the review. So the book is separated into 4 parts. But before we get to that, we have to cover what a random walk actually is. A random walk is, I think, a mathematical term, but basically means that based on the past, you can determine where something is going to go in the future. An example of that is if I flip a coin, which I don't have a coin, I have a cap for this beer, and I get heads 5 times, I can't just use that past to determine that in the future I'm going to get heads again. That's when you come and you apply it to stocks. It means that just because a stock has been going up or has been going down, that doesn't determine where it's going to go in the future. And that is the basis for this entire book. But let's get to the parts and you'll see what I'm talking about. The first part has to do with financial history. This is actually one of my favorite parts because he covers a bunch of different things that have happened in history that kind of paint a picture of what finance and financial markets are today. He goes back all the way to like the 1600s and the 1700s to talk about the first bubble that ever happened. But the really cool thing is that the author has actually updated this book several times. The edition that I have, which is the last one that came out, it came out in 2018, I believe. I think it's edition number 12. I'll put a fact check right here. Based on that, he also covers things like the lost decade with the dot-com bubble and the housing bubble, all the way to things that happened literally yesterday, like the crypto bubble. It is very interesting because you don't only get a lesson of how things have changed in the last few years. It also paints an image because we always hear that history might repeat itself. So with crypto now being kind of like the big news, we see if this is actually going to be a bubble or if it's something that it's actually going to be good. Now the second part of the book talks about the 2 different types of investing. Now Barney covered this really well in his video. There's technical analysis and there's fundamental analysis. So the author, being academic, being a person that goes and analyzes companies very well, actually throws technical analysis under the bus. Because that is basically the opposite of what this book is all about. Random walk means that you can't use the past to determine the future. And that's exactly what technical analysis do. They sit and they look at graphs, and just by the way their price is behaving, they can try to determine if the price is going to go up or down. Based on all the evidence, which you guys can look at when you read the book, there's nothing that can guarantee that in the long run, that's going to work for you. He focuses on fundamental analysis, which has more to do about looking at certain companies and seeing how they're going to behave, maybe calculating the free cash flow or things like that. However, and this is kind of where the main part of the book comes to play, you can't really choose a specific company. That's where he goes into the topic of indexing. But we'll get to that. So in the last video, I said this. I love economics. It was what I studied in college. I was an economics major. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because just like I said that Naked Economics was a summary of my entire economics degree, A Random Walk Down Wall Street is literally a summary of my entire finance degree. And that comes into play into the third part, which is a summary of how investing has changed in the last few years. In this part, he covers all the investing strategies that have happened over the last few decades. So he covers modern portfolio theory, he covers the capital asset pricing model equation, risk-free rate plus beta times risk premium. He covers beta and smart beta. He covers equally weighted portfolios and all the other things that have to do with finance. This is the part where in the first edition of the book, he talks about one of the most important things ever. He says that the best way to actually invest money would be to create an index that will just pull all the stocks from the market and you'll be able to invest on that and just not bet on a single stock, but bet on the market as a whole. So instead of trying to pick Tesla or Facebook or Apple, they would just create this idea of putting all of them together and having small percentages of each one applied to that stock as a whole. That's the idea of indexing. And a lot of you guys might know what indexing is, but back then it wasn't a thing. There didn't used to be an index for the S&P 500 or an index for the NASDAQ. There was something that was relatively new. And that's exactly what happened. Companies realized that was an amazing idea. They caught on and they started creating these indexes that people can invest on. That's the basis of the book. Not really investing in individual stocks, but just investing on indexes as a whole. And then part number 4 is called A Guide for Random Walkers. So this is actually my favorite part, because this is where the author just goes off. After he's been kind of setting up the stage for how things work, how indexing should happen and all that stuff, he literally gives you a guide step by step about how you should invest your money. So here he's going to cover every single doubt someone might have, because it definitely happened for me. He covers all the different types of investing and how you should choose them, certificates of deposit, treasury bills, how a mortgage might be good or bad based on the oncoming inflation. And one of the most important things, he covers how you should plan for your retirement and how you should invest money on your 401k. Not to mention that he talks about all the different types of retirement plans, annuities, everything, every single thing. And this is one of the parts I really liked, because I recently started working. I've been working for 5 months and actually have my own 401k account. Based on what the book tells you, he tells you how you should invest it based on your age. And I'm actually going to put kind of the way that I invest my money on my 401k here. So there's a lot of indexes, but the important thing that you have to think about is, obviously, as you get old, you can afford less risk. So in very simple terms, you have stocks and you have bonds. As you grow older, you have less stocks and more bonds. He says that that's a really good approach. He takes it up a notch and he says what specific index you should invest on. So you shouldn't only have an S&P 500. You should have emerging markets, you should have real estate, you should have all those different things. Now, besides my 401k, you guys might be asking, hey Falc, what do you invest on? The way I invest is very simple, and I really follow what the book says. Every single month, before I get the money on my paycheck, I have an automatic deposit for my 401k. Boom. I max out my 401k to have the matching from the company. Then I also have an automatic deposit in my own bank account where I try to take a very small amount of money that just goes straight into my savings account. That way also, before I even see it, it just goes into my savings, and that's kind of used for my rainy day fund. And then at the end, when I have all things taken care of, I might go and play a little bit with the stock market. Now, I don't play a lot. I have one thing which is called a dollar cost averaging. Every single week, I put 10 monies into my favorite S&P 500 index, the SP. And then at the end, if I have some money extra left, I might go and try to invest in individual stocks. Once again, he also talks about this. After the author has gone pages and pages telling you not to invest in individual stocks, he tells, well, if you've taken care of everything else, here's what you should do. And he literally gives you a guide on how you should pick certain stocks. He also talks about how stock prices move and a lot of other things that are really amazing for you to learn. I'll finish with this. It is very easy for you to go to the App Store and get a Robinhood account. You're going to put your social security number, they're going to do a small background check, and in a matter of days, you're going to have your account ready to go and invest money on. But it's not easy to go and read a 400-page book. But this is what really makes a difference. That is why I am definitely ranking this on the must-read category. If people will go and read this book, it will be completely different when it comes to investing. People wouldn't be trying to be picking stocks and trying to see what goes up or what goes down, because no one can really do that. They will go and do the smart thing and have good returns in the book. I can talk about this book for hours and hours and hours, and all my friends around me know that. I've actually purchased 3 different copies of this because I just give it to my friends and family, because I don't want to lend out this one. This is a book that every single person should read, and I really encourage you to go read it yourself. This is a 4.7, highest book that I rated, and definitely worth every single point in that score. And as far as the beer, 4.1, another light beer that I could have more than one, and I also like that it's really cheap. I really hope you guys enjoyed Movember, and I really hope that you guys learned something and really want us go and read a few of the books that we reviewed. I've gotten a lot of texts and DMs from people saying, hey, that was a really good book, I'm gonna go and buy it, and that's really the goal that we have with this channel. If you want to see the other books that we reviewed, go and check the description. You can get the copy of Random Walk yourself by clicking the link in our description. And also go and check us out on Instagram. We post amazing content there, and we post updates about the things that we're reading and the things that we're going to be reviewing. Movember is officially over, but we'll definitely see you again next Wednesday because we have reviews every single Wednesday. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
Go Gators.